It's our time. It's our time. Hey there, I'm Shub from North of Normal, and welcome to One Song, One Story. The concept is simple. Each guest brings a song that means something real to them, and we talk about the story behind it, what it meant then and what it means now. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Baker, a breathwork teacher, a Reiki practitioner, and a friend for over 25 years. She's brought a song with her that only she could bring, and I can't wait to get into it. So settle in and let's see where this song takes us. Enjoy. Welcome to the One Song, One Story podcast, Rebecca Baker. How are you?
Really good. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure. Glad to hear it. How's your day been so far?
Day's been good. Yeah. It's been an okay day. It's been fairly flowy. It's got that strange, when I look out the window, there's that strange autumnal light, kind of got a dusky vibe going on here. So it feels like a perfect, like an autumnal afternoon. Good time to talk music.
Very nice. And if your day was a song, what would the title of that song be and what would the vibe be?
The first thing that came to my mind, I'm going to go vibe first of all, would be, it would sound a bit like something by the Kinks. It would be a kind of singer-songwritery. It would kind of paint a picture. But it's been, up until this point, like fairly mundane. But I'm quite content with that for a Wednesday. So yeah, it would be called, I think it's just going to be called Wednesday, this song. It's just going to be a good solid piece of kind of nice bit of British storytelling.
Wednesday by the Kinks.
Yeah.
I love the Kinks. That's a pretty good vibe. I like it.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah.
And one thing I love to do with guests on the podcast is explore a song that connects us. So I will ask you shortly if there's a song that connects us. But the one for me, or I usually choose a song, but right now it's an album actually. So we were chatting about this the other day, and it's Life by the Cardigans, which 25 odd years ago, I have this very vivid memory of you bringing in this album, Life by the Cardigans, and playing it, a CD, and putting it on and being like, oh yeah, no, I know this. I've heard one of these tunes on the radio. And then gradually this album started unfolding, and it's an incredible album, but it's been with me for about 25 years now. And it really means a lot to me. It's an album I put on like beautiful sunny days where I want something really light. It's an album I put on if I feel sad and I want something really emotional. Sometimes if I just want to cry, I will put songs on from that album. It's I always think of that. I always think of you when I play that album. So thank you for the beautiful gift, because it's been with me for many, many years now.
I can picture the front cover so clearly of that CD, and I can, as you were talking about the different moods that you might play different songs from that album, like I can hear the different songs that you might play, if it's just traveling with Charlie for a sunny day in the car, like I can hear the different songs that you would play for those different moods. And it's really remarkable that album isn't, like, I don't hear people talk about that album very much. Like, it's not like a seminal album. And yet as an album, like it's almost like not just a concept album, but like every song has a character, doesn't it? Like every song is a story or like a unique vibe. It is really amazing album and seems to just fly beneath the radar. But it is, a real masterpiece, and I love that stayed with you, and I love that as you're even mentioning it and the different moods, I can just hear, like it's like I can skip through the different tracks that are on that album. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Is there a song that comes to mind that you think connects us?
Can just, Shub, some of my fondest memories of you would be just the passion and velocity with which you would belt out "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" by Shania Twain.
What a classic.
The love, that you had for that made me reconsider that song as an anthem as well. But it will always, when I hear that song, that's the song that reminds me of you. There are definitely others, brilliant artists like Bootsy Collins and Prince that reminds me of you as well. But I've got to say, the first one that comes to mind that feels like it connects us is your love at that period of time for Shania's anthem.
Still a lot of love for Shania. It is an anthem
Good.
as well, and it feels so good to sing.
Yeah. And that bit when it drops out and it just does the, like, you can't not love that bit, right?
Oh, that's good. Right.
Yeah,
That's a very good one. I'm proud of that one.
good. Yeah.
And listen, you've brought with you an amazing song today, and we will get to that song when the time is right. But I thought we would just chat a little bit first. So, would you describe yourself as a creative person?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like it's the heart of what I do and who I am. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other maybe descriptions or job titles that have come and gone. But ultimately, I think creative is at the heart of it. But, I think everyone is ultimately a creative person. I think we get
Mm.
conditioned out of it, but I think everyone is ultimately creative. There's a beautiful piece in Kay Tempest's book on connection about everyone being creative, and the creativity is anything that you create. It is any act of love. It's how you get dressed in the morning, how you paint a wall, how you pot up your flowers, how you cook a meal. Like, it will mean different things to different people. And I think that, yeah, we can forget that we're all creative. But when we remember it and start to interact with life as an act of creation rather than a slog or a series of tasks, but seeing it as lots of little acts of creativity, I think it really changes things, brings some magic to the mundane.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to think about things, I think. And then we were literally just talking about Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, and I think he talks about that. I guess he talks about it a little bit in there, but the way he frames it is kind of, this is not just a book for musicians and producers. This is a way to approach life. And yeah, I think what you've just described there is that approach. That's a beautiful way to think about it. I think just the creativity is pretty much everything you do.
Mm.
And in terms of music itself, do you have, like, what's the earliest memory you have of music becoming part of your life?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's been really lovely to contemplate the role of music in my life, in anticipation of our conversation, because I'm so blessed that my dad's a guitarist. So music, I don't ever remember there not being music. Like, there's no way I could pinpoint
Mm.
like the first time I heard music. There was always music on in the house. My dad always had, like, there was always a guitar lying around. So he would, a lot of my core memories are of dad's of playing guitar. And then he was, so when I was growing up, like, so the music I remember from growing up, Car Journeys would be John Denver's greatest hits. I know I'm not alone in that, from someone that grew up in the through the early 80s, but in our house, it was mostly like dad playing music, and also I'm just trying to think which happened first. So dad was in a covers band, which, looking back, was probably
Wow.
like what you do when you've got a fairly young family. Like, dad's heart was not necessarily in playing this music, but they used to play loads of music from the 60s. So I would always go along to the gigs, but also, well, some of my memories, and I reckon I would have been about 10 or 11. I would be home alone because my sisters were teenagers and out. And I would go across the road to where my dad was rehearsing with his band, and I'd just sit at the back with a book. And so they'd be playing all these covers from, like that. My awareness of music from the is
Mm.
unusual because I heard all these covers being played, and then, bless my dad, he'd say, "How does it sound at the back, Bex?" So I got to say,
Oh,
like, "I think the drums are a bit too loud," or like, "I think the guitar could come up," or "I can't hear the vocals there." Just giving, like, my sort of like childish opinion on these. But, like, I look back on that and think, like, I was so, like, proud to be asked that I would listen so closely, so that if he did ask, I'd have something helpful to contribute. So I really think that shaped, like, the depth at which I listen to music and listen to all the different components of music. And I think for years, I'd see dad in bands and my brother-in-law was also in bands. So my memory of being around that dynamic of creating music and making music, and the distance between the different energy between writing and creating
Mm,
music and rehearsing, to the different energy of performance. So yeah, it's absolutely been a part of my life. And then I think as I grew older, and the music scene changed, and then I was spending time with DJs and going out to nights and seeing that type of performance as well, which I think is really amazing. Like that, like reading of the room, and that, like, the movement of a crowd and how a crowd responds to music. Like, I would often spend time like just watching that if I wasn't on the dance floor, just like
wow.
watching the kind of undulating crowd move to the conjuring of music and how things move. I'm still so fascinated by that. I could really, like, what is the energy before a drop? Like when it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then there's a silence, and then it's like popping a cork, isn't it? Or like it's like just goes off.
Mm,
Like, what is that? And I think that collective energy is so fascinating as well, when everyone synchronizes and like is co-regulating together in that space. It's fascinating, really fascinating. And so, like, I should say that all of through my childhood, although I was surrounded by music, and it's interesting that that was where I felt really, really at home. Like, I was also always in shows and in theatre from when I was like 6 or 7, I guess, and then studied theatre. And I think that dynamic of creating something beautiful that can't ever be recreated, like something that's so in the moment,
mm.
that's what's is so exciting about live performance, and the co-regulation of what is an audience in theatre, or a crowd, or an audience at a gig. The co-regulation, the shared experience of that, I think, is just, it is magic. It's humans at its best. I think that's the thing. That's what I feel so passionately about creativity and art, and the arts broadly, is like it's humans at their best.
Yeah.
It's just acts of absolute beauty, innovation. Growing up with my dad, who's a guitar player, like, just that one instrument, like, think of all the different varieties of a guitar, and all the different sounds that you can get, from John Denver through to flamenco, through to Jimi Hendrix, through
Yeah.
to like BB King, like, all that's just the one instrument. And we've got loads of instruments. Like, humans and their desire to create music is incredible, and the desire to create connection, and to try and make, and Rick Rubin does talk about this, to try and like make manifest that which is otherworldly.
Yeah, and you talked about one instrument there, but I've heard Quincy Jones talk about there are 12 notes in kind of, the scales that we use. There are 12 notes, and so much creativity has come from just 12 notes. And it's like this beautiful, simplistic little scale that you give to people and say it's the same notes everyone else had and that's been around for thousands of years. And they're like, cool. And they'll go off and create something totally unique out of it, out of this tiny, this tiny narrow band that they have to play with. But it's, yeah, I think that's one of the most fascinating things. And really great to hear you talk about live music, because I think I'm kind of coming back to a deep appreciation of live music, which I don't think was there for many years. I think the bigger the stadiums got and the bigger the venues got, I kind of became a little bit detached from the experience. And then I've more recently been to smaller venues, and there is nothing like it. And I don't even have to be into the band or the musician. There is just something, like you mentioned there, about that shared experience, that it is just quite a beautiful thing. Someone is performing, the crowd is reacting, you're a part of that shared energy. And as I said, there's times I walk away where I'm like, I didn't particularly like that, but I had the most amazing time. It's just such an incredible experience. Yeah, that's really, really cool. And how would you describe your musical tastes?
Yeah, my musical tastes. I think I think my musical tastes have really been attached to the period of time that I've been in. Like, it's hard to separate that. I would say it would be easier to mention the very few genres that I don't like, rather than
Yeah.
all of the ones that I do. You know, it's that kind of that is that kind of spectrum. But I would say the genre that I return to again and again, it would be like soul, Motown, that
Mm,
kind of that era, like you mentioned Quincy Jones, like the Motown era, the Northern Soul era, that kind of old, maybe like 50s, 60s, 70s kind of soul artists. I think I returned to that the most. When I was growing up, as I say, I was really retro and teenager, so it was really all about like the Beatles and David Bowie and the Doors and that kind of era. And then I discovered drum and bass, and that also has a still, like, I dip in and out of it, but it's still a genre that, like, when I hear that music, it's like a full body response. I'm
yeah.
fascinated by how we respond to the dance music and how opposite that is for me to like a classic sort of 4/4 house sound, which I couldn't listen to for very long at all. I'm fascinated by what the biology is at play there, because it's not like a head decision. But yeah, so I went to see Goldie
Wow.
live recently. Yeah, I had two drummers, someone on the decks and Goldie, and it was amazing. Shub. The main drummer, must have just drummed like solidly for like 90 minutes. Like,
Wow.
is it insane? Yeah. And a brilliant crowd. And there's another piece here because there was a brilliant crowd, all in their 40s. No one bothered getting their phone out. It was the moment he was on, everyone just danced till the moment he was off. You know, it was brilliant. And I think that thing about live music, um, or something that Annie Mac has been talking about recently, is like how phones in clubs really changed the experience for people. And she's been playing at the Warehouse Project in Manchester, and they've been bringing that no phones policy. And so there's
Yeah.
something about those of us that are kind of in our 40s, like as kind of guardians of that time beyond phones, to go
Mm,
like to feel that co-regulation and to feel that freedom. And that's what, you know, Annie Mac's certainly been talking about. You know, you're just there for the music, you're just there for that full-bodied response to the music. And I think that when I've been like reflecting on like on the pieces of music that have stayed with me my whole life, like it's those like full body responses that we remember, I think, or that's what I remember. And then yeah, I know I'm tangenting all over the place, but one of the songs that I thought about before today was Papa Was a Rolling Stone, like the full
yeah.
length version, which I sometimes say, you know, if I was on Desert Island Discs, so if I had to listen to one piece of music for the rest of my life, it might be that, because every time I hear it, I hear like another little bit that I didn't hear before. And the intro and the way that it builds. But I was thinking that I think that's a masterpiece, like an absolute masterpiece. But I'm listening to every note, and I'm marveling at the different changes that happen, and then the strings that come in, and then the vocals, and then the harmonies. But it isn't in my body. Like, it's still in my head and in my ears as I'm like really appreciating this, probably in my heart. But there's these other pieces of music and this piece that I've chosen for today is one of them, where it just still, after all this time, will give me goosebumps. You
Yeah.
know, like I have to stand still or sit down to be
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
And
there's something
it's
about that full bodied response.
yeah, it's a fascinating distinction you make, I think, because you know, the kind of the head response and the body response, like no one is better than the other, but it is powerful, those ones that have an effect on your body. And it came up on with another guest a few shows ago, and they spoke very eloquently just about how life is just pure vibration and frequency, and that there will be some vibrations and frequencies in the form of music that really resonate with our vibrations and frequencies. And it's like you can't sometimes understand it on an intellectual level. And it might not even be a piece of music that you want to like, but your body is liking it. Your body's like, no, we like this. I don't care what you think. But it's, yeah. And, you know, on the flip side, you can really enjoy a piece of music intellectually, but there is something that hits when it just resonates with your body. And I was kind of curious to ask you, again, in the intro, I mentioned you are Reiki practitioner and breathwork teacher. So it's kind of breath and body practice, but you also play music. So it's kind of always curious to know how you go around choosing the right sort of music for that kind of practice.
Yeah, that's such a great question. How do I guess, yeah. So I should maybe I explain a little bit about the practice as well. So if let's
Yeah.
talk about, in terms of breath work, if I'm guiding someone through a conscious connected breathwork journey, I'm guiding them into a space where they're likely to experience an altered state, a mild altered state through the practice of connecting their breaths and breathing continuously with no pauses for an amount of time. So in that amount of time, the journey that I'm thinking about them going on is from a space of rest into a space of activation, and then coming back into a space of rest again. So I'm going to I'm going to curate the music that fits that arc or that shape. And really interestingly, yeah, there's a lot to consider because, yeah, here's the thing. There's a lot to consider, and the music feels definitely part of the medicine. So depending on the intention that I have for that breathe will depend on the music. Very often I'll start with the final song that I'm going to play, which will often have lyrics in it, and then work backwards from that, because that for me, and that will be something that just comes in, that will be something that feels like, that's right, I've captured that. I very rarely will play. I won't, if I've got a workshop, a breathe, a retreat in a month, I'm not going to plan that until probably 2 or 3 days before. Because, and I guess this is where the kind of the energetic work comes into that as well, because I don't know what's happening in the field until we get very close to that point. So when we're a few days before, I'll be able to sort of drop into this awareness of what we're feeling at that time, what's out there. And then that will often land that final piece of music that will have lyrics, and then I kind of craft it to a pattern back from there. But I think the interesting thing is, and I mean, this is just something that I consider and really hold on to as a facilitator, is that for that work, the breath is the thing. So how you will respond to that music when you're breathing in that way might be really different to how you respond to it if you heard it in a different context. Ultimately, I'm guiding you into your body and into your breath, and the music supports that. So that's an interesting thing to consider. As you were saying, when you go out and listen to live music, you can have a really good night and also go, I didn't really like the music, because
Yeah.
there's something else that's happening in the field.
That is an interesting point, because just when you mentioned that there, I kind of respond to the rhythm during that breathwork practice, where I may be a little bit out of the head. I'm not tuned into all the instrumentation and the words, but the rhythm will give my body pace. It's probably subconsciously knowing that there are markers of things are getting quicker or things are getting slower.
Yeah.
So in that big middle bit, everything kind of drops away, but the rhythm and the pulse are certainly there on that kind of arc that you described. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting then to think about that as music supporting that arc. The music is there to support, and in a space that you might not be consciously aware of. You are not necessarily you're not breathing in time to the music in a conscious way, but as the body meets the music, the body will respond to that. And that's certainly an invitation I would bring in when guiding a breathe. You'll notice a change in tempo. How does your body respond would be the prompt or the inquiry. So
Very
constantly
interesting.
really bringing into the body, let the body respond.
Yeah. Okay. I think it would be a great time to find out what song you brought. But just before we do, I guess a quick heads up for anyone tuning in for the first time. This isn't a deep dive into music theory or production hacks. This show is about the stories behind songs and the way they become part of who we are. So if you haven't heard the track we're about to explore, take a second to pause, give it a listen, and then come back. And I think you'll find the conversation will hit a little bit deeper once the song's in your head. Rebecca Baker, what is the song that you've brought with you today?
Yeah, the song that I brought with me today is At the River by Groove Armada.
Beautiful song. Beautiful song. And I'm always keen, before we get into the why, I'm always keen to explore the process. Was this an easy choice for you? What was your process to arriving at this song?
Thank you for the chance to explain that, because it was a real process. And as I said, and as I'm sure lots of your guests say, you know, it's really hard to zone in on that one. And I would also say, which we spoke about earlier, like, it's funny speaking about this song. We're in November here now, but I never listened to this song between October and March.
Yeah,
So I've
such a great
listened to it
rule.
in preparation for today, and I'm like, oh, how does this feel? This is so, because I'm so specific about my attachment to the song. So yeah, there were a few songs that came up, and I mean, honestly, as well, there were some songs that came up that have been with me a long time that I'd really had that emotional, like, oh, I want to listen and talk about that one. You know,
Mm,
songs that are beautiful and powerful, but and maybe are still like just for me, like us, you know, that it feels like, well, I'm not sure I could bring that into the open. And then there was, but this song, which, although interestingly, I can't remember the very first time I heard it, I totally know the chapter that I was in when I heard that, and where I've heard it, and places that I've heard it, and you know, we'll dive into that a little bit more. And so this really felt like the track that has actually, like, it both, it it's it's journeyed with me, and
mm,
this is this amazing thing about music. When it happens, I can drop into like the quantum field where you're both in all of those places and in
yeah,
this place here now. And that is why it had to be this song, because that song has always done that. Even when I didn't have a long history with it, it's always dropped me into this other space, and still does now. So yeah, the other songs felt like either like they are just for me, or they didn't have this journey that this one has. And also, I think, as I almost got in the way of choosing this song, because definitely there was part of me of like, is that like, you know, should I have chosen something a bit more like left field or a little bit out there? And I'm aware also that this song is used on an advert, and I have never seen that advert. Like, I've heard the opening bars, or I've heard people refer to it, but I will never associate. Like, I consciously am like, those two things can't be associated.
yeah.
So yeah, I almost got in my way and second guessed it, but and thought about another song, and then I thought, no, it is this one. It is this one, because of the way, yeah, even just like, you know, hearing it in my head, just I could feel myself drifting off, you know, just thinking about it. It is this
It
song. It has to be
is
this
one
song.
of those songs, and I love the way you described it there. When you listen to it, you can just be in all those different places at once simultaneously. That is quite beautiful. And so you mentioned there that you can't really trace the first moment that you heard it, but you know the kind of the chapter. So could you tell us a little bit more, set the scene in terms of where you were, who you were, when it was?
Yeah, absolutely. I can. And because there's the scene that I picture when I remember first being in contact with this song is so I'm in my bedroom. I'm, how old am I going to be? 19, I'm guessing. I was about 19, and I was living on the cusp of Greenwich and Deptford in a big shared house as at university. So it's going to be 1990. It's going to be the year 2000, 1999, 2000. And I'm looking out of a big sash window, and I'm looking out over London. And in the distance, the Millennium Dome has recently been
Mm,
finished.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's really of that time. And I'm looking out this window, and I'm hearing this song, and what is in my heart is this, and it is what music does. It's because I'm going to struggle to bring it to words. So to bring it to context is that I grew up by the sea. I grew up in a town in Devon where my, a big part of my childhood was playing by the sea, playing on the sand, really feeling my age in this moment because what was very special about that beach was that it had sand dunes. And
Mm.
so this huge part of my childhood was there. And then as a teenager, it was like wandering up and down the seafront, seeing who's about, meeting your friends down at the beach. Then it was like free parties down on the beach, having a bonfire down on the beach. So like everything about me was about the sand dunes and the salty air. And then I found myself in London and I couldn't explain that sense of like absence, um and how disconnected like I was feeling, because I was also having a really good time, and it
Mm.
wasn't there was a lot going on. uh yeah, but like I would say, like, it's so weird being somewhere where you have to look up to see the sky, whereas where I grew up, it was all around you, went from here to here. And so that's my memory of that song being something that I would listen to. I remember it being a song I would listen to alone. I don't remember it being like a song that really connected me with others, but it would be maybe one of those like songs that are like last thing at night, of just kind of sit myself by the window and feel that, this, and it's so full of nostalgia, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's wistful at the same
Mm.
time as being, you know, yeah, it has all of the nostalgia and the sort of wistfulness of remembering where you want to be.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I guess, do you remember what kind of hit you first with this song? Like, you've talked about the connecting to the lyrics. Was it, the sound, the lyrics, the general feeling? Was it all at once? Do you remember that from your first listen?
It's the feel of the whole piece, I think, because it grows for quite a long time before those
Mm.
lyrics come in. And it sounds like this is I mean, like, this is more, maybe more heady because I've listened to it so much and sort of moved around in it. But it sounds like the ocean coming in and out of the shore, like it moves at that tempo, and then as it grows, you can kind of hear. It's like listening to something underwater when you listen to it.
Mm.
It's like everything's slightly muffled and muted, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
when the bit "do-do-do-do-do," and it sounds like you can hear it being played like a long way away. Like I imagine it's like a brass band and and a choir on a pier, like a lot, and you're just
Mm.
getting like the little bits of it as the wind changes direction. You could just hear it off, and the voice is not distinctly voices, but there are human voices, but they're not quite there. And then the trumpet just sounds like someone who's I always think the trumpet sounds like someone who's only just bothered about playing the trumpet. Like they're so hot, they've been lying on the beach all day, they can just about got enough energy to get that's even that feels like so like laid back and sun kissed and lazy. It's also lazy. And I just think it's got so it seems to capture these different layers of
Mm.
what's beautiful about long hot days at the beach and the heat and the kind of slowness of that, but also with this really distinct, I think there's a really distinct, not sure what the word is, let me describe what the thing is, like the seaside out of season, or
Yeah.
like an amusement arcade where no one's there, but the lights are on. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
captures some of that like plaintive, like like it's still there, but the people aren't there, or like there's just something slightly like
Mm.
wistful about it as well. And then it's almost like the lyrics come in as the answer, like all of that sensation and feeling is in there.
Wow.
And then that's because if you're fond of sand dunes and salty air, there's this like yearning for that comes in through the
Wow.
words.
I've never thought of it that way. That is very, very beautiful. And I do get that from the song. Like I would probably call a slight feeling of like loneliness where I listen to the song, but it's very comforting as well.
Mm.
But I think it's true. Like I think I have a relationship with nostalgia. It's a place that I kind of like to be, where it's bittersweet. You know, it's like, oh, that was an amazing time, and oh, a bit sad that's gone. And it feels like that whole essence of nostalgia is captured in this song. For me, it's like, this is so beautiful and amazing, but it's a little bit lonely. That's the kind of feeling I get when I listen to this. And really interesting you mentioned about the instrument, because I think it's a trombone, and it said the guy that wrote it had bought the trombone the day before and then started making this tune, wasn't a trombone player, and just sort of pulled this trombone that he had for a day and started trying to play on it. And I think it does sound like that. It sounds just kind of free and lazy and, you know, in no way technical, but just full of feel and full of emotion. Yeah, so that was a really beautiful description. And I love your description of kind of the build up and what you think it might mean. And I'd love you to talk a little bit more about like what it makes you feel, because I guess you've been listening to this for quite a few years now. So has the feeling for you changed over time in what you feel when you listen to it?
Yeah, I really love that you talk about nostalgia, because I think that feels so fundamental, like in this tune, and how amazing that they can capture a sense of nostalgia, and it's such a clever piece of music in that way. But yeah, has how I feel about it changed? So when I first was listening to it, it was absolutely that wistful sense of nostalgia. There was a loneliness that you spoke to as well, but it's a loneliness in your heart that I think is in my heart that felt like just not being at home.
Mhm.
Yeah, has it? So I'm just remembering the summer just passed and listening to it then, because I now live really close to where I grew up and I live by the sea again. And so my memory of it that is coming to mind most recently is driving across like the coast path between Devon and Dorset on like utterly cloudless day, really hot, late June, seeing little bays appear, and this beautiful kind of blue-green water, and
Yeah.
rooting around in my Nissan Micra for the CD, because I'm like, I gotta listen to this song right now, and putting that in the CD player, winding the windows down, opening my little sunroof, and being like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what this song is
Yeah.
talking about. So yeah, absolutely. Like it's both been there for me when I felt a long way from home. It's reminded me that wherever I am and wherever that beach and the sea and the and the sand is, like, that feels like home to me. So it's been like this little marker of like, we're just that is where home is, and like, remember that's where home is, and remember that feeling that you're feeling now might just be because of that distance.
Yeah.
And so it's almost had this, like, I was thinking about almost this kind of siren song of like, it just reminds me that that is where my heart lies. And so there have definitely been times in the summer just gone, like that drive, I really remember, like the urgency of like, it's now, I need to listen to that song right now because I'm
Mm.
here. Like, it's happened. I've made the right choices. Like, I'm doing it. I am in this space right now. And there's been a couple of other moments I can think of like that, where I've been driving home from the beach with my little girl, and she loves it too. And so there's this lovely kind of passing on of that kind of in
Yeah.
of that shared memory of like, this is the song we put on when we're driving home from the beach at the end of the day. I remember when she was much smaller, like that would be the song that I'd put on when she was in the bath at the end of the day at the beach, and like wanting that to be in her field as well and have those associations, because I think that's I really feel that about parenting is I always feel like the best I can do is like give her, like the ball of wool in a maze, like I don't like, so that she's wherever she goes in life, she'll be able to like find her way back home again. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
one of
yeah.
the ways in which we do that is a hope, but through music, and it's like planting that there for her, because I felt like that's how it has been in my life, that it's like reminded me where my heart lies. And so
Mm,
at the moment, and particularly in the summer just past, it has been really beautiful to listen to it and go, oh, I'm here, like this feels
yeah,
like home.
that's beautiful. And I really love the way you described it as a siren song, and this song like calling you back to where your home was. And especially because when you described you were in London, I just got this feeling like this song has found you, and it's like calling you home and reminding you. And it may have been years, but it was like a sign, a signal saying like, come home in the most beautiful way. I love that idea that
Yeah.
that's what the song was trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think because of I think that home was really broadly about wide open spaces and the sea and the ocean.
Mm,
So it was, although now I am back in the county that I grew up in the place that I grew up in, but it was about that having, yeah, the call to those wide expansive spaces and to those, to a yeah, but do you know what, Shub? Maybe it was calling to where I actually am right now. Like that's just really landing for me of like, maybe it was in that quantum field, maybe it was always putting a flag in this moment right here now and the space that I'm in and living this close to the sea. I was listening to
yeah,
it last night and I could hear, it was a really wild night last night, and I was listening to it and I could hear the sea crashing on the shore. I was like, wow, this is a really long way away from where I was when I first heard it.
very cool. I think personally, I always find it fascinating to reflect when a guest sends me through their song choice, because it always seems to sum them up perfectly, whether they're conscious of it, or whether they're not conscious of it. And I think what I took from this is a lot of the stuff you've already mentioned, which is this theme of the beach and this beautiful kind of beach landscape and sunny, hazy days. I think what I also took from it is kind of this feeling of stillness, though. And you talk a lot about pausing and finding that beautiful space to pause. And this is a tune that doesn't really move that much. It's quite slow, it's quite still, yet within there is such beauty. And I kind of felt like maybe there's something in there too. I kind of felt like it was the perfect song choice. And it's easy on my side. I might be reading too much into it, but I was like, yeah, this feels like the perfect song choice in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's spacious, isn't it? It's a really spacious song, and it almost feels like, I think the intro goes on longer than you think it's gonna. When I listen to it, I'm sort of leaning in for that trumpet, for the trombone,
Yeah.
and then for the words to come in, because it's really spacious. It feels like they've just stretched everything out. So yeah, I love that it has, and as you say, it also, nothing very much happens once
Mm,
you've got the layers. Once you've got the layers in there, it just does that until it goes off. And if you ever have, when I used to play it to my daughter after in the bath, I just loop it, as a bedtime
yeah.
song, because you can just loop it and it just carries on. And but I think you can hear that sense of like the waves coming in and the waves coming out, which is really, I'm just noticing now, Shub, that's often what I'll talk about when I'm guiding people through conscious connected breath work, that you're
Yeah.
connecting the breaths, imagining the waves rolling in away with no pauses. So there's this real sense of spaciousness
Mm.
and that continuous, just really gentle flow. So yeah, thank you for feeling into that, because I really, really love that. Yeah, how the
Yeah.
song actually really reflects a lot of my work and my values at the moment. Yeah.
Has this song ever made it onto one of your breathwork playlists?
No,
No.
no,
I
no.
feel like I crossed the line there.
Yeah. No, it
No.
hasn't. There's certain ones, I think also, my role is to be super present, right? And I think if this song came on and I was leading, I think I would be away in that quantum field by the sea. So no, that one hasn't. But others from that album have. And actually that's the other thing. It's obviously from a Groove Armada album, but
Yeah.
this is the CD that I've got it from. And this very CD got lost, and then I got it again. And that's the third time that I've got that double album of Chilled Ibiza. And when the song ends, like, I can tell you what songs, like those CDs are like, I know what the next song is
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
coming in. And so when I got my Nissan Micro, which had a CD player in it, I was like, brilliant. I need to get this Chilled Ibiza album again so that I've got it in the car, because you don't get CD players. I like this, I think, in preparation for today, was maybe the first time I've ever listened to it via,
Wow.
I don't even know if I must have listened to it in headphones. But yeah, like I'm so attached to the artifact that I had,
Yeah.
that I listened to it on, in a way that I imagine like people might have been with, like with an LP, like you want to listen to your LP, like on your, like that's how I feel. Like it's, I don't know if I've mostly listened to this not just on CD, but on that CD.
I love the way it's your third copy. That's really interesting because when we come back to the very start and I was talking about the Cardigans, as I was talking about them, I realized no matter how much I love that album, I've never searched for anything else that they've done. And it's really interesting because some
Ah,
bits of music you hear and some artists you hear, you're like, oh my God, I've got to explore what else they've done. And some things you
yeah,
hear like, nope, I just need this right now on this
yeah,
particular CD. That's
yeah,
all I need.
yeah, yeah. That's so funny, isn't it? I'm the same with the Cardigans now that you mention it. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think it came to mind when you were talking about whether it's been on a Breathe, because that is a great compilation album. Like it's really beautiful music on there. There was one other contender actually that's on there, which is A Love Song for Spartacus by Terry Callier. Do you know that song?
Don't know
That's
it, no.
again one you've got to sit down for that one with something to wipe your tears as well. It's so profoundly beautiful. That one has been in Breathwork playlists, but no, I sometimes toy with the idea of doing like a purely Balearic playlist for a Breathe. But even then, no, that one's too special. That one's mine.
And I always drop the song choice in a link to this podcast. So I'll obviously drop the song that you brought, but I think we would have to drop the song that we discussed before we came on. So you sent me a song to listen to just as I finished listening to it. And it's
Yeah.
Patti Page's Old Cape Cod, which is the vocal that they sample in this track. So tough question, but try and describe Patti Page's Old Cape Cod to someone who's never heard it before.
Yeah, do you know what? And even when you say the title, like one of the things I was thinking, I was like, no one's ever said cod. It's just made it sound so sexy as Patty. As in that last note is just all the word cod. And yet, and yeah, it's just, oh, yeah. When I messaged you, and as you say, you just finished listening to it, but I messaged you and said, make sure you're sitting down and with
Mm,
headphones, because you will just melt, and it almost, so this original, I mean, it's that kind of classic, I would guess like late 50s
yeah.
or not quite swing, but it's got that like big band strings, hasn't it? It's not swing, but
Mm.
it's got that big band strings to it. And then the vocal is just like melted caramel vocal that just it also really, brings a tear to my eye, that version of it. And it captures both this kind of plaintive nostalgia about this, summer holidays, but also has this slight kind of, like the kind of news advert of like,
Yeah,
come to Cape Cod. Like it's
yeah,
got but it's got that, and then it's stretched it all out so that it's just got this languorous feeling. But interestingly, although it's only that hook, of just a few of the lyrics on the Groove Armada song, if I'm singing it to myself as I do pottering around, I will always then sing those extra bits of,
yeah,
that's in
yeah,
the song about if you spend the weekend, you'll want to stay. Yeah, it kind of paints a picture, doesn't she, of like winding little lanes. And again, it's so anchored in the 1950s that you really imagine,
yeah,
I imagine, like, hardly anyone around except just a few folks in their kind of white pressed slacks and straw
yeah.
boaters and some kind of well-groomed women eating lobster at sunset. Like it's just gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, and I feel like there's such a beautiful connection uh, and evolution between the original and this one. They haven't just kind of sampled something and taken it and create. I mean, they have created something new, but it feels like such in the same vein. Like one is talking
Mm.
about some idyllic place in America. They've taken all that energy and just put it into something which, like, I think this feels British, and maybe that's just because my experience of the seaside is largely in England, so it's my own nostalgia. But there's something, yeah, it probably is my own nostalgia, but there's such a thread running through it all, and they've used it beautifully. But it was fascinating because that was the first time I'd ever heard that. And weirdly, when it starts, I thought I like it comes up on Spotify, says, oh, it's from 1959 or whatever. And then it started, and I thought it was a vocoder. I thought it was like a sort of a synth voice. And then you settle into it and you just realize it's some really beautiful old school vocal harmonies. Um, but yeah, it's quite a listen, I think. It's a real dreamy track, so I'll drop that in there as well. Uh,
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you're doing that because they seem so closely related, don't they? They
mm,
do seem related. They both have that spaciousness. They both have that nostalgia and about them. And the other thing that I really feel about the Groove Armada track is like it feels really analog. There's something.
yeah,
So I love that you said that that the 1959 has got that slight but like vocodery like feel to it, but that's maybe again how they feel like they overlap, because in the
yeah,
Groove Armada one, I think that there is this, like I say, like that it feels like there's something on that you can hear the voices. It feels like I think it's played on like a sort of deserted fairground. Like there's something about it that feels slightly scratchy, like a cassette or like vinyl. Like it's still got that kind of dusty analog feel, even though it also has these soaring strings.
yeah,
But even that muffled bit that, or I always feel like if you're swimming and you can kind of hear something played on the beach and you go back underwater again and you can hear it coming up, it sort of it comes in and comes out, like you're hearing it on the breeze. It's an amazing, amazing piece of work. I think it's so multi-layered, and the way that they capture so much mood, and like we can even say that a track is nostalgic and wistful. Like it's
mm,
music that's done that. Like it's like you said, it's a finite amount of notes and chords and guys on
yeah,
computers bringing a little bit up, taking a little bit down. And then everything that we've used to describe it, like we've not much, I've not mentioned what key it's in.
yes.
It's all about that, the feeling and the emotions that they've captured. It's amazing.
And I think it's, yeah, I totally agree with what you said. And I think it's kind of even more poignant when you're feeling that without, even before the lyrics are coming, just a fairly simple
Yeah.
bit of music that's been created that just starts playing and you're like, God, it makes me feel so much. And then when the lyrics come in, it's like takeoff. You're like, oh God, everything I was feeling is now just being sung, and that takes you off somewhere else. But it's truly incredible, I think, what music can do. And there's always going to be our individual personal experience of it. But isn't it fascinating when other people are like, yeah, I feel that too? It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, really. And thank you for like naming that as well. As you're so right. All of that emotion comes in before the lyrics in the Groove Armada track. And so the original kind of adds visuals to that perhaps, but you're so right. All of that feeling of the wistfulness and the nostalgia and the longing, and all of that being okay, you know, like the loneliness as well, but like
Yeah.
not being like, oh God, this is awful. It's that like it's beautiful, isn't it? It's sad, like it's wistful, like a sunset is wistful. Like it's like the end of the day is like, oh, it was a really lovely day, but it's okay. It's okay. And you're right, all of that is in place before any of the lyrics begin.
Yeah.
That's it's amazing.
What a piece of music. We are starting to come toward the end of our conversation. But before we close, like looking back on what we've shared, the song and the story and the memories it carries, is there anything that kind of stands out for you right now, or anything new that's come up for you?
I am just really, what stays with me is that feeling of the field in which music operates. So I've loved feeling into that suggestion that almost this song had that siren call that even 25, 26, 27 years ago, whatever it was, 25, 20 years, anyway, time. I always had such a slim grip on time. That even back then, that it had this kind of siren call to where I am now, and having that realization that, yeah, this summer felt like, oh yeah, like I can almost be nostalgic about the feeling of nostalgia because it's here.
I love that.
I know, man. Yeah. I wish I was still nostalgic like I was yesterday.
That's so brilliant.
But, you know, the other thing, which it's another tangent, but it just because it comes to mind when I think about that in the quantum field, which is so exciting, is I also remember that I, um, in 2018, I had an experience and I went down to the beach to reflect about this. And I heard the songs in my head On the Road Again. I think it's by Willie Nelson.
Yeah, it's a great tune.
On the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. And I had this real sense that you've got to take the phrase, you've got to take your family home. You've got to move you and your daughter back to the sea. At
Wow.
the time I lived in Exeter City. And then 7 years passed. It would have been, oh no, I can't remember. I just relinquish trying to work out what year it was. An amount of time us. And then we had to move out of Exeter and move to the beach. And I'd forgotten about this moment. Even though I had journaled about it because I sought that out to check I was right. But this CD came my way in the car. I always drive old cars with CD players. And it was a compilation album, track 3, On the Road Again by Willie Nelson. So during that process of driving to and from this new house to move us
Wow.
from the city to by the beach, Eliza every time is due, can we put On the Road Again on? So it was that moment of going, so that song that occurred to me 2 years previously is now the soundtrack with which I'm moving to the beach.
Yeah.
So I love that sense of these little sirens and signifiers because music does operate in that quantum field. And I'm going to now really pay attention to what I'm listening to at the moment. Like, what's my next move? What's I can do if I can tell my future? Or just really start listening to music that absolutely sings about things I really want to happen.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
another
that's the
way of
way to do
doing it.
it.
Rebecca, thank you so much for bringing this song, your Siren song, and for bringing yourself so openly. It's been amazing to share this time with you. And before we leave, where can people find you, follow you, connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you can find me down by the beach in Devon, which is where I am. And then I also, but in Devon, I offer monthly breathwork classes in Totnes. And you can find out all about them on my website, which you maybe will put in the notes, or on
Yes.
Instagram, Rebecca Baker,
Yeah.
8888. Yeah.
Okay. It's been such a pleasure, Rebecca. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been beautiful.
It's our time. It's our time. It's our time.